Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Lasching podcast and the Sports Now Network. This is episode 100. That's 100. The first 100 are coming at you right now. And I'm joined by my co-host for the entirety of this podcast, Kevin Quigley. Kevin, we've made it. I don't know what we've made it exactly to, but 100 means that we're doing something either right or wrong, or just don't care.
Yeah, it could just be that it's blunt force, but I think we have been doing something wrong because for the first time ever, we're sponsored. 100. This episode is going to be brought to you by Good Dog Beverage Company. Good Dog offers a variety of products, including zero carb, zero sugar vodka cocktails, bourbon hard seltzers, and cranberry vodka cocktails. They also have whiskey cocktails that only contain 3 grams of carbs and 3 grams of sugar. Now you're asking yourself, who is Good Dog Beverage Company? Good Dog Beverage Company is a purpose-driven brand on a mission to provide premium beverages that make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Through their Leverage the Beverage program, Good Dog donates a portion of the profits from every case sold and 100% of the profits from their merchandise sales to provide service dogs to people in need. You can go to gooddogbeverage.com. It's scrolling across the bottom if you're watching this on youtube.com. That's good, D-O-G-G beverage.com to find merchandise and the closest retailer carrying Good Dog beverages for you to try for yourself and to support those in need of a service dog.
There you have it. Kevin, great job as always. But let's get to it. Obviously, the title of the episode is Throwing a Party, Welcome Party. Obviously, we're celebrating episode 100. We're welcoming Good Dog Beverage Company to the podcast. And we're welcoming UCLA to Beaver Stadium for the first time as members of the Big Ten. So lot going on this weekend. But Kevin, UCLA poses a different kind of threat solely because we don't know what quarterback's going to be under center for them.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to get the welcome to the Big Ten. That's Penn State's not going to hopefully give them the best welcome. UCLA is definitely a team that's been struggling. They're 1-3. They've been very uncompetitive against the likes of Indiana, and now they're going to come into Beaver Stadium on Saturday for big noon kickoff against the number 7 ranked team in the country. So, what better way to come than a full West Coast to East Coast flight to start real conference play for UCLA. So lots of wild cards around them, like you mentioned, but hopefully this is a tune-up game adjacent for Penn State. It's what it should be.
It's what it needs to be. Let's be real. For Penn State, this needs to be the Kent State game of the conference schedule. Get your tune-up. UCLA is not as good as Penn State is on paper. That is for certain. But go in and get right. I mean, they have a little bit to clean up, obviously, from Illinois. They played a really, really really good game, as far as just some things that people didn't pick up on in game. I mean, they dominated Illinois. I'm pretty sure they're going to dominate against UCLA. UCLA is going to get in. I would imagine they're going to be in on Friday. That's a nice little cross-country flight. Get in Friday, get your walkthrough in, and then you got to wake up and be ready to go at noon. Your body clock's going to be at 9 o'clock, just waking up. It's not an easy situation, but for Penn State, they got to deal with it again. They got to deal with it next week. It's not like this is something that only one team has to deal with. It's every team in the Big Ten now. Miami's got to go to Cal for big noon for something. They got game day. Excuse me, Kevin. I did not realize I was going to do a live sneeze. But we keep going on. But yes, I mean, there's just a lot of weirdness now in college football. Penn State's not immune to it, but for UCLA, this sucks. Like, you're traveling across the country, most likely going to be starting your backup quarterback in a hostile environment. It's going to be a noon game, a stripe-out game. 107, 8, 9,000 people are going to be there, and guess what? That's Big Ten football. It's been a while, Kevin, but you muted yourself.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate thing of college.
We had a really good streak going, Kevin.
I was on a roll, man. That was like 15,
What?
20
This is the
episodes.
greatest anniversary podcast ever. Is
we have a little bit of everything.
It's like episode number 1. We've got sneezes. We've got Kevin muting himself. This is no better way to throw a tribute episode to the first 100 episodes of Lashing Out.
Side note, I did listen to episode 1 a while back or a couple weeks ago. Man, that was terrible. We've come a long way. Thank you for sticking with us. And if it's your first time listening, welcome. Yeah, it's the unfortunate state of college football now. It's not just the Big Ten, like you mentioned. Miami's got to go to Cal. What a terrible state of college football where one team has to go 3,300 miles across the country and then to play somebody, and then that somebody, Penn State, now the next week has to go 3,300 miles back to LA to play their game next week. So kind of just the sad state of college football, kind of the sad state of conference alignment that we have. Sure. Is it cool that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 merged? Yeah. Like, is Penn State USC going to be an absolute banger of a game next week? Absolutely. Does UCLA need to be flying 3,300 miles across the country when they're 1-3? Probably not. I think it's safe to say. Ethan Garbers is probably not going to play, like you mentioned. So backup quarterback's going to be in. That's Justin Martin. He's a true sophomore. So good luck to him. And what a baptism by fire. His first career start's going to be against a Penn State defense that I hope turns up the pressure. Like, I'm hoping for under 150 yards for UCLA on Saturday. Like, that's what needs to happen. Penn State needs to build up 350, 400 yards on offense, and they need to be under 150, 200 on defense.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing, too, is for me, I want to see them put up points against a Big Ten team. I want to see them put up 45 plus, and then not allow any more than probably 3. It's got to be a completely dominant game. Again, there's so much at stake now, seeding-wise, as far as, going into USC and just completely taking care of business, knowing that it very well could be a top 10 matchup out in LA next week. And I think that's the other thing, too. We're going to get a test for Penn State, 3:30 next week, which is a great time. That's a noon kick, essentially. So they get back-to-back noon kicks, really, according to the body clock, which is huge. And again, you get to go out and enjoy Southern California. I'm not quite sure their travel plans, but I do know that for James Franklin, there's not probably a coach more prepared to do something like this than he is. And I think that's why, you look at what happened in the lightning delay against West Virginia, right? It's having those contingency plans is something that Franklin prides himself on, and that type of organization, details that they go through for travel and things like that. So for him, welcoming UCLA shouldn't be a problem, but you have to focus on UCLA. You can't be thinking anything about USC looming ahead.
No, you certainly can. And you also can't have that sleepy first defensive drive that they've seemingly given up almost every game this year. You need to come out and just command the game from the start. You do have that potential top 10 matchup. USC is a good team. USC played Michigan hard. Michigan ended up winning that game, but you just got to go get ready, show up, and be ready to fight, because USC's next week, and you've got to be ready for that one.
Absolutely. And we are going to be ready for the second segment when we come back from this quick break on the Lasching Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the second segment of the Lasching Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. He's Kevin. I'm Jarrod. Kevin, again, on paper, UCLA doesn't technically stand a chance, but that's not how football works. Penn State needs to do a multitude of different things to come out with a win. And the first thing is getting the offense going early. Too many times they're just kind of sluggish. It's a noon kick. There's fear of this being a trap game, if you will. So, I mean, for them, they have to get out and start this game early, get on the scoreboard early, and not be chasing points. And the same thing defensively, you have to start early and not kind of have those first drive woes that we didn't see last year, but we're seeing quite prevalently this year.
Yeah, I'm going to start with offense first. First of all, what's the status of Nick Singleton? He missed practice yesterday. From my hunch, it's more illness or a personal matter versus an injury. He was made available to the media on Tuesday. We're recording this on Thursday night. So media availability on Tuesday, no mention of an injury or anything. Misses practice on Wednesday, and here we are on Thursday with no update there. So hopefully he's ready. If not, Katron Allen's going to be the bell cow. And then how does the running back position look behind Katron Allen if they do have to go without Singleton? You're down to Cam Wallace, who's a redshirt freshman, Quentin Martin, and Corey Smith, who are both true freshmen there. So
well, it's going to be Quentin Martin solely because Cam Wallace is still hurt.
My mistake. Quentin Martin and Katron Allen could be your duo if Singleton is not healthy. Hopefully he's there. Maybe it's just limited action. And yeah, offense, not only do they need to start fast, they need to score points fast. Because a couple of times the offense has started well, and then you have the Bo Perula interception that just puts ice on the game. You know what I mean? Like, you need to go up 14, 21 points by early second quarter. You need to be up 21 points by early second quarter. You can't go into halftime with only a 7-point lead and then pull away in the third quarter. This needs to be come out, step on their throats. Don't overlook this game, because you're right. This is every makeup possible of being a trap game. Home game at noon against a sleepy opponent when you know you have a big cross-country flight next week against a potential top 10 team. That has trap game written all over it. So, excuse me, it's going to be a big test of the 1-0 mantra this week. And let's see if they actually do prove that. So that I think that's what I'm most looking for. And yeah, like you just said, like I said in the first segment, is defense has to come out ready. You can't be sleepy on the first drive. Go to bed early on Friday night, get to Beaver Stadium in the morning first thing, and just be ready to play. Be in that mindset of, we are going to make this game as miserable as possible for a true sophomore making his first start on the road in Beaver Stadium.
You mentioned Nicholas Singleton and him missing practice Wednesday, at least the viewing period of practice, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot to digest there. He did meet with the media on Tuesday, like you said. If you're injured for Penn State, you don't talk to anybody. I'm not even sure you're allowed to talk outside of the football building. That's how hush-hush James Franklin keeps things on the injury front. If it was an injury, I think he would have gotten a no-go or a go type deal. I don't think it's anything serious, solely because he did meet with the media. Now, something could have happened Tuesday at practice, but again, I don't think this is anything to necessarily worry about, because they don't let players talk to the media if they're hurt. It's just James Franklin. Hell, getting him to talk injuries is like, trying to crack the Da Vinci Code, but in coach speak. And understandably so. It's a competitive advantage. It is what it is. Obviously, Penn State is better with Nicholas Singleton. But again, Penn State's running back situation isn't bad either. Quentin Martin's a stud. He's more than ready and more than capable to spell Katron Allen. But seeing Katron Allen as a feature back wouldn't be a bad thing either. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have. I'd also like to see the offense get the receivers involved. I think Penn State's going to match up much better outside than they would against them. But the game's going to dictate how that's used. Defensively, you need another performance like Kent State, like Illinois, where you just play dominant football. And if you're able to do that, you can get out of there with a win. Keep the fans happy, and then onward, upward to the Coliseum next week. And I think if Penn State's capable enough to handle that, I think this could be a really successful weekend for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, I think the other person I'm looking forward to see develop is DeJuan Lane at safety. KJ Winston sounds like it's now potentially a season-ending injury. I don't know if much has changed on there, but it went from long-term, and it's not really clear if he's going to come back at all this season. He's at least out through next week, from what we've heard, and he's probably could be out. He's going to be out probably even longer than that. So, DeJuan Lane, true freshman, welcome to big time. You still do have Jalen Reed, you still have Zakee Wheatley, but if he develops to a point where Jalen Reed can go back to playing nickelback, the defense is better. If Rojas and Abdul Carter can figure out their rotation, get Tamir Robinson involved, like get some more athletes on the field, and DeJuan developing to that point lets the defense function as if KJ Winston is there. So, because it's just right now his spot's filled by Jalen Reed, and you kind of want Jalen Reed to get back to where Jalen Reed is Jalen Reed. So, I think that's what I'm going to watch for on Saturday.
Biggest thing for Penn State is not taking UCLA lightly, coming out, handling business, and then moving on to USC. We're going to move on to the third and final segment when we come back from this break on the Lashing Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the Lashing Out podcast on the Sports Now Network. I'm Jarrod. He's Kevin. Kevin, I got to break some news here. For those listening at home, James Franklin will be in Altoona on Friday night to join my broadcast. He will be in Altoona though, to watch some Harrisburg commits play against the Mountain Lions. He was at last week's game as well, so that's now 2 weeks in a row he's on Mountain Lion. He's in on Mountain Lion football. They have Kevin Brown, an offensive lineman, and Messiah Mickens, an athlete. They're two are committed from Harrisburg for 2000 from out of the 26 class. But it's kind of cool. The school was talking about it today. Obviously, there's some buzz around it. It's kind of neat for a program. Obviously, Altoona's struggled this year. They're 0-6. Had a decent game last week against Stone Saunders at Bishop McDevitt. He set the single season or the career passing touchdown mark for the state of Pennsylvania or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. James Franklin was there I would imagine. He was there to see it. I don't think he had left by then. But yeah, so there's a little bit of a buzz around Altoona football for that. It's to fly into Mansion Park Stadium and on his helicopter, and it'll be a nice little fun thing for the Mountain Lions. And that's about all the breaking news that I've got.
All right, let's do our fun little thing then. Saturday's weather, 64 and sunny. Overnight low Friday of 53. So could be a little brisk fall morning, proper football weather. We're starting to get into that time of the year.
It is October.
Penn State's a 28-point favorite against UCLA. Jarrod, what say ye?
I have Penn State 45-3.
45-3. I'm gonna go. I want 42-0.
I dig it.
There we go. What games are you watching this weekend? Friday night.
Friday night, Michigan State, Oregon. That should be fun. Out in Eugene. You've also got UNLV against Syracuse. That's a tough game. Obviously, UNLV is now ranked without their former quarterback. They had a great week last week. Both of those games are on at 9:00, which is interesting to me. But they're both in the West Coast, so that makes sense. Then, of course, Saturday night, I'm watching Utah State and Boise State. My boy Ashton Jeanty is a stud. Obviously, we talked about that before. But there's not a lot of great football games on across the top 25. Miami Cal is where game day is. That's a primetime game out there. Marshawn Lynch is the guest picker. There really wasn't anybody else they could get for that. He's perfect, and I cannot wait to hopefully see him, Nick Saban, and Pat McAfee on the same set together. I think that would be incredible for college football. You've got USC is at Minnesota. That's Michigan is at Washington. Indiana Northwestern is fascinating. Ole Miss at South Carolina. Can they rebound from that loss to Kentucky for Ole Miss? You got Georgia and Auburn, Iowa and Ohio State. I guess if you're looking at ACC or SEC and teams around Penn State, Missouri is at A&M. That's probably the other biggest game of the weekend for the top 25 teams.
And A&M is 2.5-point favorite despite being 16 spots lower in the top 25 there. So it's almost a pick'em game. 2.5 is kind of just your default home. Florida State looks to move to 1-5 against Clemson, 7 p.m. on ESPN. So you can get some primetime Florida State misery. I will be gobbling that up, I think. Support my alma mater a little bit, but also just basking in the misery of the Florida State program. Might be time for Brock Glenn there. Not sure about that, but they got it. Mike Norvell's got to do something. I don't know if anybody's been fired after going the year after going undefeated. But 1-5 starts not the best way to keep your job. I'll put it that way. Alshon Jeanty is just an absolute stud. Hopefully he's becomes a Heisman front runner. The more primetime games Boise State gets, the better it is for him. And sure, Jalen Milroe's having a fantastic season, but sometimes a non-quarterback needs to win the Heisman Trophy, and this might be a good year for it. So,
yeah, I think so too. But it'll be interesting to really see how everything goes this week. Again, Penn State's just got to handle business. The only thing they can control is themselves. And then obviously next week, USC. And it's going to be a very, very intriguing matchup. Obviously, Penn State and USC in the Rose Bowl a couple years ago was a phenomenal football game. I will always remember that probably until I can't remember anything else anymore. But this isn't the Rose Bowl. This is a regular season Big Ten game. And there's a lot on the line. But first is UCLA. And until then, Kevin, you have any parting shots?
I do got one more game to watch. Sorry. Rutgers undefeated at Nebraska at 4:00 on Fox Sports 1. That's going to be.
That's right. The Fighting Gracianos. And it's crazy. They're undefeated.
Battle of the Red teams.
Not ranked. That's right.
Battle of the Red teams.
Great day for the color red.
Which one will prevail? My bet's on Nebraska for that one. But
I like Graciano. I like Rutgers. I think that'll be a fun one. But
do you want to do a friendly wager on Steelers Cowboys Sunday night?
I am avoiding Steelers Cowboys Sunday night like the plague. So no, there is no friendly wager.
All right. Do you want to put a friendly wager on Rutgers, Nebraska?
On that I can do.
All right. We'll figure that one out later.
Excellent. Tune in Sunday when we talk about our friendly wager who won or lost. And also, or I guess Monday, we record Sunday, more about Penn State and their game against UCLA on the Lashing Out podcast and Nittany Sports Now Network. Thanks again for listening.